Hi everyone, I'm Todd Nauck. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So this is it, our final video in this Young Justice art video series. We're going to be coloring Superboy today and wrapping up this illustration. So let's just get right to it. Okay, so here we are, got the camera right on Superboy, nice and zoomed in and ready to go. So just like with Impulse and Robin, starting with the skin tones first. Like to start in with skin tones. I like to start with the skin tones because that's like, I think the more critical area for me to start with. I like to make sure I get the skin tone of any character I do just right before moving on to their costume colors. I don't know why that is. It just kind of always started there. I felt like if I screwed it up on the skin tones, then I might as well just start all over from scratch. So yeah, I think that's kind of why I always start with skin tones first, because they really also capture so much of the character, their personality and their, you know, the look. So I'm starting with some light skin tones here, a darker shade of that light skin tone first, moving to lighter colors, just as I did with Robin and Impulse. So using the same light shades and for the skin tones as well, the lower E family, the E0, 2, 1, and 00. So just working in that, the shapes of the face, always keeping in mind light source and the shapes and angles of the face, the cheekbone, the nose, the bridge of the nose, the brow, under the eye. These are the shapes I'm going to consider when I bring the color into any character's face, is the angles and what shapes can I create with that. And I like to come in with these different shades of pink to kind of create some rosy noses and cheeks, just to help kind of give the character some life, some that blood kind of underneath there, bringing that out into, and also it really works well with these younger type characters, creating kind of a youthfulness as well. And just like with Robin, kind of going for that blue in the hair sort of vibe, like from the olden days of comics when they didn't have as many color options. It kind of gives a classic feel, but I'll come in like with Robin with some of that gray to kind of mute down the blue, so it's not a big bright blue hairstyle. And as I moved here into the collar portion of his uniform, kind of a darker blue, a really nice darker blue, that will be separate from the gray of his jacket. Now we notice here Superboy's hair overlaps the logo. We are going to deal with that in a little bit, and when I get to that, I will explain more the process in that moment. But right now we're going to just bookmark the top part of his hair that overlaps the logo for the moment while we fill in other parts of his costume and drop in some blue in his eyes. One of the few characters here that have actually get to see their eye color. Though technically Impulse's eye color is yellow, so even though it's underneath yellow lenses, it's still yellow underneath. I guess it's still kind of the same. And coming in with my shades of red here. Now, like with the fist here, you're seeing where the fingers bend. I'm picking the area that's further away from the light source, even if it's just by a little bit, as the darker shade, and then lighter shade on top. And it helps me kind of create almost a three-dimensional, tried to say dimension, I tried to say a word that doesn't exist. So now we're going to come in and work on the S shield, keeping in mind the curves of his musculature, his pectoral muscles, and what is that shape. Now I've done this so many times, I can imagine what that shape is just for the red part and fill in the blanks for the yellow part as well. Don't really have to map it out anymore because I've done it so many times. That repeated process, when we practice and do the same things over and over and over again, we are creating a muscle memory there to where it becomes a second nature. So working that S shield is second nature. A lot of these shapes for me are oftentimes just ingrained in my brain, especially since I worked with these kids for 5 years on the comic series, and I've been drawing these kids for commission sketches, commission artwork, convention commissions, over and over and over again. These three guys are some of my most requested characters for me to draw, which I really enjoy. I love Young Justice. I love doing this book, and I love all these characters. The guys and the girls, the female characters, Wonder Girl, Arrowette, Secret, Empress, our teenage version of Lobo, Slobo, Red Tornado, Snapper Car, even the Ray, so many characters, and all the characters that guest starred in our book. I really love doing this series, but the main characters, I get these requests to draw these characters all the time, and it's always a joy and pleasure to draw these characters because I care about them so much. I like to cover over that dark area with that lighter color. You'll see me do that all the time because, as I mentioned in the Robin video, these inks are, especially with Copic, are made to blend with each other. So just even though I've already laid down some of that darker red and it's kind of dried a bit, when I pull that lighter color over it, it kind of reactivates it just enough to where it kind of can help smooth that out a little bit. Still has a little bit of a hard line cut. The more ink I apply to that spot, the more it can kind of break up that ink and kind of start to smooth it out more and more. So I get to kind of choose how much saturation of color do I want to put down to create the blending that I would like to see. And with Superboy here, I'm mostly going with this third shade of red as my really most red part of this. Like, most red? The most dominant red, I guess, is the way I want to put that. Okay, so while we work on this here, I'm going to tackle one of the questions y'all have shared with me here on social media. So one of the questions I got was, what was the first comic book you remember owning, and do you still have it? So the first comic book I remembered owning, but this was before I became a comic book collector. I don't even know how I got this comic, but this comic was just in my house. I was age 6. And it was a comic book called Spidey Super Stories, issue number 2. It was from this joint venture between Marvel Comics and this PBS educational show. I don't know what word I just tried to say there. Educational show called The Electric Company, which taught you essentially how to read. It was kind of a step up from Sesame Street, and it always aired I think just before or just after Sesame Street. I can't remember it. It was a long time ago when I was a little boy. But I was 6 years old and I had this comic right here. I don't still have the original comic. A fan actually gave this to me at New York Comic Con. He had heard that this was the first comic book I remembered owning before I became a comic book collector in my teen years. And he found a copy and brought it to me at New York Comic Con 2023. So I want to say thank you much, Billy. Appreciate it. It's nice to have this in my collection. And so yeah, this was one of the first comics I remembered owning. I wish I still had the original, but that was so beat up. I read that thing till it fell apart. So it's nice to have a new copy, and it's actually in pretty decent condition for as old as it is. It's definitely in better condition than the one I had. So this here, Spidey Super Stories, issue number 2, was the first comic I remembered owning and reading until it fell apart. So back to the colors here. We're working in the leather here of Superboy's costume, or of his jacket, his leather jacket. So I'm considering the texture of leather, and I want it to be a little bit more shiny, not like a super high gloss sort of shine, but I'm keeping in mind that when with leather, it can kind of get a nice white kind of highlight depending on how the light hits it. So this is something I'm kind of keeping in mind and trying to achieve with my color choices, as well as the shapes I am creating with the sketch tip of the marker here. Wanting to leave some white, or I'm leaving the lighter colors towards the outside. You'll see there's a kind of a rim around his arm. Kind of the blacks in the leathers are just outside of the outer line of like the arm or the shoulder. I'm keeping that in mind for leaving it open for the highlight. Same as going through the center of the jacket. Not that I'm going to leave a big bright highlight necessarily, but I'm keeping that option open as I build towards the final color there by, again, start layering the colors, starting with a darker shade of neutral gray and always moving towards a lighter shade. And his jacket has kind of a trim around the shoulder epaulets and the collar down to the belt of the jacket, kind of where he can cinch the jacket if need be. Putting a little bit of a shadow underneath where the cuffs of his gloves would be. And then, of course, keeping in mind that his head, his neck overlaps the jacket, so there'll be less light hitting in those areas. Coming in with a little bit of a lighter shades of gray, down to my neutral gray number 1. This will probably be the lightest shade I bring into this series of grays for his leather jacket. Not leaving tons of white. It's not like a super reflective, it's not like it's like a super shiny material. Using some cool gray 1 is a slightly different sort of color texture for the little buckle epaulets on his shoulder. I keep calling them epaulets. I don't even know if that's what they're called. But you're doing that my cool gray / light blue approach like I did for similarly for Robin's bow staff. And now to kind of mix it up a little bit, I'm bringing in some very light bluish green into the lower parts of his jacket as kind of this reflected color that's kind of bouncing up into the parts closer to the ground. Just wanted to give that leather color a little more texture, so it's not just a flat gray, but just a little more color texture with this choice here. And then coming in with a lighter shade of like a light blue to come on the other side of the jacket, kind of more towards the upper part or outer portions of his jacket, as kind of maybe like a sky reflection there. Just a little bit. Not a lot, not a ton, but just a little bit to give it some color texture is the best way I want to describe that. Now coming in with my cool grays for these more quote-unquote realish sort of shadows, or true shadows. And keeping in mind that the jacket that he's wearing is going to overlap his chest, so I'm going to make sure that I create a little bit of depth, a little bit of sense of depth there. And like with the hair, just that spit curl, that little bit of hair is casting a little bit of shadow onto his forehead. A little bit of a darker shade, similarly that I did for Robin's red of his uniform and Impulse's, coming in with that for the reds of Superboy's costume. And just kind of sculpting out those muscles there on his chest and midsection. Maybe a little horizon reflection there in the metal parts of his, like of the buttons and buckles of his jacket. All right, that takes care of that. Now it's time to tackle the hair that overlaps the logo. Did not want to see the logo. It was a conscious choice to have Superboy overlap that. I'm using acrylic paint pens. I'm using the Posca brand. And so I have several of these colors of different nib sizes. So I'm using this one color I have. I don't have it in a finer tipped size, so I have to be very careful with how I apply this. But it's acrylic paint that is going to just completely cover over that logo. And I'm going to have to be very tricky how I blend the paint to match as close as I can the hair color of the markers that I chose, the marker colors I chose for his hair color, I should say. So, and this will take a moment to dry. thing here with the Posca pens is when I'm doing illustrations using these, especially like for a comic book cover remark, I have to allow the time for it to dry, and that can take a bit of time. I'm surprised I didn't edit out more of this as it dried, but just gives us more time to chat. So okay, it looks like I didn't wait for it to fully dry, but that's okay because it does kind of allow the ink, the pen, sorry, the paint from the pen, to merge together, or kind of blend together a little bit. And now while it's still a little bit wet, I'm coming in with a little bit of a light blue Posca that kind of matches the light blue I used for his that highlight in his hair. I'm kind of keeping that in mind and just kind of sketching it in with these acrylic paint pens. So using kind of this darkish blue, this gray, and then this light blue. Now with the angle of this shot, with the camera shot, I should say here, with the light source, that my actual desk lamp is really putting a bit of a glare on the acrylic paint, so you don't quite see the true color of it at this stage, which was unexpected here. And now coming in with an even lighter shade of blue to kind of really help match it. I'm just kind of eyeballing it with the Posca colors I have, with the Copic marker colors I have used, and how can I start to blend these two together to try to seam it together with the Copic marker moving towards the acrylic paint pen to create a unified sort of look here. And I'm not really looking for perfection, I'm just looking to be close enough, because I will come back in with my multi-liners and do a little bit of inking here over the acrylic paint to recapture that initial ink stage that I had for Superboy, so that it gives that almost seamless sort of look, is the ultimate goal that I'm shooting for here. So here I come in with those multi-liners, as promised. I think I'm using a Pitt pen, a Faber-Castell Pitt pen. I believe I'm probably using the S size nib. I'm just coming in and now drawing over that dried acrylic paint pen. Now I did edit some of this out to where the drying process, because the drying process probably took about 15-20 minutes per color, so I did edit that out. So the acrylic paint pens do not dry as quickly as it looks like here on this video. I did do some editing there, so we weren't sitting here for 45 minutes collectively as we waited for each color, 15 minutes for each color to dry. And just doing some little inking touch-ups here just to kind of get that unified look again. Tells me to kind of double check some of the other portions of his inks there if I want to make any adjustments. I just got a few more other little tricks here I want to do, so we're not quite done yet. So this is kind of how the piece looks currently at the moment with the three boys. But I want to add a couple of other elements to the final illustration, and I want to put in some sort of background element. So I'm using my little protractor here and my Copic marker B01, this very light shade of blue. Not quite as light as the light blue I used for like the different metal textures that I paired with the cool gray. It's like one step above that, and I'm able to create. I'm creating this circle, and I was very particular on where I put this circle template. I'm keeping in mind everywhere that circle goes, I'm not creating a tangent. And that's like where the line lines up with another aspect of the character. Like I wouldn't want the line to go right across to line up perfectly with Superboy's left hand knuckles. Like if the curve matched that curve, and it would create this very unappealing visual aesthetic, which I did not want to happen. So I'm very mindful, where is each part of the circle lining up or cross-referencing with Superboy, Impulse, and Robin. No line lines up exactly with the line of the contour of any of the characters there. I want to make sure I'm creating more perpendicular intersections in a sense. So that was the mentality there, and I had to be very thoughtful. I had to kind of really double check to make sure I was not creating a tangent. And that's where, again, where those lines would line up, the circle of the line lining up too on point with any other curve of any of the other characters' elements there would be undesirable. And then I'm just going to fill this all in. And this blue, I felt, just kind of gave the boys some pop off the page. I could have left it without the circle behind them, but I don't know. I just kind of like putting in a background shape, even if it's just a simple color, just to give a little something that kind of unifies the three together, kind of brings them all. It's a graphic element that I guess connects them all in a fun way. Or at least I think it's fun. And not much more here to fill in, just this one section over here. Well, one big section and one little section here next to Robin. Then I think I have just one other detail I want to add to this piece, and we're almost done. I really appreciate y'all sticking with me and watching this video series. I appreciate all the support for sure. Just a little bit more there. Okay. So lastly, I'm coming in with my very fine Posca white acrylic paint pen, and I'm creating an outline around Superboy's hair between him and the logo to give him just a little more pop off the logo. In fact, I wish I had zoomed in a little closer here so y'all could have seen more of the detail of how this is coming together. I'll remember that for future videos. But I think hopefully the video is clear enough that you can see enough of the detail, especially if you're watching on TV. You're casting it to your television. And now just to put in a few little white highlights, like the tip of the nose, a little bit here around the eyes. I felt like some of the marker bled into his eyeball area too much, so I'm just using a little bit of this white pen to fill in the whites of his eyes back, and putting a little highlight there on the nose, adding a little more color to Superboy's earring, a little white highlight on that. Now, a lot of people say, how can Superboy have an earring if he's Kryptonian and invulnerable? The answer to that is Superboy is not fully Kryptonian. He is half Kryptonian, half human. That is what allows him to have a pierced ear. He is not full Kryptonian like Superman, just halfway. A few little highlights here on Impulse's goggles and on the metal of his buckles of his wristbands. And this piece is almost done. We're on the last few touches. And now I'm going to put my cover signature on here. And the date that I drew this in the past. Just broke up the series, the art to a series of 7 videos. But I drew the entire thing in one sitting. And this pen here I'm using is one of the Arteza art pens that I used for many of the color hold inks on different characters like Robin's Green and like I think Robin's Green was one of the few. Oh, and the gray for Impulse's white part of his costume. There we go. So that's my cover signature there. Used a nice light blue to kind of match the yellow, or the yellow, match the blue of the circle behind them, and using a light blue Posca paint pen to autograph this finished piece. And this piece was auctioned off, and the proceeds went to benefit Peter David, writer of Young Justice, who has suffered some health problems in the past year with strokes and cardiac arrest, still recovering. So if you're able to help him out, there's a GoFundMe link in the video description below to where you can give Peter David a hand if you're able to. Any dollar amount really helps. So there we go. Let's wrap up this video. So there we go. There is Superboy finished, and this whole sketch cover is done. Thanks for sticking with me with this 7-part series. It was so much fun to do. So good to be back doing art videos. I hope you had fun, and I hope you you learned some tips and tricks that you can apply to your art as you pursue your art journey. And I hope you're having fun doing that. I hope to do more art videos. I'm still working on a number of comics and covers that's keeping me very busy, but I do want to try to find ways to keep creating content here for my YouTube channel. So hopefully I'll have another video or video series to upload here as soon as I can. I'm going to try to find ways to try to keep some sort of content up here on more regular basis than I had previously. So I thank you for your patience, and I thank you for your support. Feel free to leave a thumbs up if you like this video or any of my videos. Those thumbs up really do help, as well as feel free to comment. I do try to keep up with as many of the comments as I can. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe so you don't miss out on my future or upcoming art videos. When they go up, you'll be notified so you don't miss out and you can be one of the first to watch. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Thanks so much, and I will hopefully see y'all again real soon. I'm Todd Nauck. Keep on drawing. Keep having fun.